Hey, it's Yats from the Inner Yats team and the creator of all this amazing content that you're getting to you, especially about inner work, reparenting the inner child, trauma, working through rejection, breakups, etc. So, before I jump into the topic of today, if you haven't already subscribed to our page and you like the content that we're putting out, make sure you click on the link and subscribe to our page, The Inner Yat, so you can get more of these videos. Follow us. There's going to be a lot more of this content coming out that you will really enjoy. So, today, what I'm going to talk to you about is reparenting and 3 ways to reparent yourself in the present moment. And I'll go in an order of like ease, so to speak. So, one is to connect with the inner child. So, in the present moment, to reparent yourself from either the masculine or from like the feminine perspective of the parent. So, reparenting yourself in the masculine, for example, would be evaluating your life in the present moment and seeing where do I need more structure, more discipline, more guidance, more support, more stability, more consistency, more commitment. Looking at those things, where do I need more direction, more vision, etc. So evaluate your life in the present moment from the masculine, for example, and say, if I were to be my own father in this particular moment, and you have to visualize this, whether you identify as the feminine or the masculine is irrespective. Each one of us has masculine and feminine within us, different levels of it. And so if you're reparenting from the masculine, especially if you had a wounded relationship with your father or with your masculine energy in your life, if you had a wounded relationship with them, they didn't show up fully, they showed up too much, they controlled you too much, if they had a wounded perspective, and if your relationship there suffered, then you will need more masculine parenting, reparenting from the masculine side. So you look at yourself and say, where can I show up for myself as the masculine parent in a way that I would need that love, support, and safety? So if you look at your life and you're like, okay, maybe this is creating a better schedule for myself to sleep, possibly. Maybe this is creating a better schedule for myself to work, being more disciplined about this is the time I'm going to get this done, this is how I'm going to create that. Putting more structure into your life. If you feel like that's been lacking, create that little bit of structure from within. Even if you identify as the feminine, this is not going to take away your femininity. This little bit of structure may allow you to feel safe and feminine in other ways. So just creating a little bit of that for yourself, of where you need to show up for yourself in a more masculine parenting way, so that you can have more of like, an all-round expression of feminine, masculine, etc., and more healthy dynamic, but to reparent yourself in that way. So maybe if you were a child who, you wished your dad could take you to school, your dad would actually to drop you, to come to sporting events, to come to competitions, visualizing yourself in moments of today when you're performing, you're going to a big meeting, you're going to maybe prove something to someone, you're going to showcase yourself, visualizing a father being there next to you and saying, you've got this, you're going to do this really well, you're going to be able to express yourself, I'm here no matter what happens, success or failure, I'm here, I've got you, I'm going to be able to show up for you, I'm going to make sure I'm here right until the end. When you have to make tough choices, decision, visualizing and reparenting from the masculine perspective, saying, okay, I think this is good for you. Just go ahead and do it. Trust it. Go ahead, make this choice, make this decision. That's a really strong way to feel reparenting from the masculine perspective. Now, step number 2 is reparenting from the feminine perspective. So let's say you had a stronger wound with your mother, right? Let's say that, for a lot of men, they unconsciously don't realize that they have strong wounds with their mothers because their mothers either didn't show up for them emotionally enough in a nurturing manner, which actually helps develop the masculine, or their mothers were overbearing and their mothers showed up in a place where they pushed their own agenda down the child too much because they felt an insecurity of their own selves, maybe even in the disconnection of their own relationship. Maybe it was the single child, and so they forced that agenda, which got again the masculine child, to develop with an unhealthy dynamic. So when you evaluate, I'll give you my example. For me, I have a very strong mother wound because my mother wasn't necessarily a nurturer mother. She was a provider mother. So I had two provider parents, a father who was providing and who was anyway not very emotionally connected with me per se. My mother, who also was not very emotional but was more a provider parent, taking care of things being met. So I naturally had more of this wound. And so in the present moment, there are a lot of moments where I feel like, I have a lack of affection. I feel like a lack of connection. And so unconsciously, I start seeking that in relationships and make that a priority, which then skews all the value systems of what are important for me to have in a relationship. And so I tend to choose partners like first in terms of am I getting this affection, this connection, etc. And next only in priority of like, okay, will this make for a good relationship? How are they in terms of dealing with conflict? Do they accept and recognize their own wounds and where they're coming from? Do they want to heal and grow? So that was very strongly how it showed up in my past. And so in that perspective, reparenting from the feminine energy, from the feminine parent, allowed me to feel more safe and secure as a growing, like little child, inner child, little boy, inner child, but as an adult to feel more secure in the choices I would make. So I would think of, okay, what are the ways that, the feminine parent would want to reparent me? So I'd imagine being a motherly figure. And so I would, for myself, reparent by creating and cooking really nice meals for myself, by taking care of myself in terms of before I went to bed, feeling like I was tucked in, I was cared for, etc. During my days when I felt alone, I would emotionally focus on like validating myself, soothing myself, as if a mother was hugging a child and saying, "Don't worry, I got you. You're here. I'm here always to love you." And being able to reparent yourself from that perspective allows you to feel more of that nurturing care and affection, which makes you feel like you are thronging to desire for it externally so much less. So now you're conscious and making better decisions. It's like, think about you wanting a drug of a certain sort. If you feel the withdrawal of a drug, if you feel the lack of it and you're like, oh my god, like, I'm really wanting this, I'm wanting this, you will make poorer choices in terms of how you get it, what you get to use as a fix, and you'll just get anything that gives you a quick fix, so you're stimulated. Whereas if you feel more satiated within yourself, providing yourself that feeling, you make a lot more rational, better decisions for yourself because you're evaluating, okay, what is the best choice for me here? What is the safest choice for me? What is the best choice and way for me to show up? And the third way I want to talk to you about how to reparent yourself is through visiting past invalidations, past abandonments, and past rejection. Now, this is probably the biggest way to be able to reparent yourself. I'll do a meditation on this sometime for you guys. But what you're going to do now is go back to any moments in your past. They don't only have to be in your childhood. If they're in your childhood, phenomenal, because now you're going back to the root. But if you go back to a moment, let's say a past relationship where you felt rejected, right? Maybe you felt abandoned. Maybe you felt the threat of abandonment, like a partner was threatening to leave, a partner was showing up for you less and less, and all of that was making you feel like so sick to your stomach inside, being like, oh my God, what if they leave? Where are they going to go? Will I be in this relationship? This relationship not going to work out? Any of those feelings. Or even them invalidating you, being like, on one perspective, them shaming you, judging you, but you not having the strength to leave because you feel like maybe that's the identity I'm stuck with, that's come from somewhere. So, what I want you to do in this moment is close your eyes for a second, visit that time, visit that space where you felt that pain in the past. Now, in that moment, I want to ask you, what does this remind you of from your past, in your childhood? What does it remind you of in terms of a feeling? Where did you have this feeling from when you were really young? And you may be able to go back, you may be able to see, oh my God, this reminds me of when my dad wouldn't really show up and he was always at work, and then the few moments he came, I tried my best to prove my love to him or prove myself to him, and I had to do everything that would get his attention, and even then it was so difficult. Even then he would barely give me love. Or it could be around when you wanted to just ask for love really badly from your mom, and when you went to her and said, Mom, look at how I did this, and I want your approval, and I want you to just recognize me, and your mom was just too busy doing something else, talking to someone else, invalidating you. Maybe she even shushed you. Maybe she even told you that, oh, that's not really that great, other people have done it better. Or maybe you don't look that great, maybe you don't look that beautiful, or somebody else looks better than you, or somebody else has done better work than you, etc. And so when you think about those moments, they can be any for you, right? Even as an adult, if you can't go back to the childhood, just think about it as an adult, how you feel in those moments. Those moments of relationships or rejections or invalidations when you feel threatened. And recognize that why it's hurting so much is not because of what the person or the people around you are actually doing to you. It's about how we internalize what's happening, how we make what's happening feel painful because it reminds us of past trauma, because it reminds us of moments in the past. And so, in that moment, visualize yourself being the parent and giving yourself what you really wanted in that moment. Instead of what you got, visualize yourself giving yourself what you really wanted in that moment. Maybe you wanted love. Maybe you wanted a hug. Maybe you wanted support. Maybe you wanted recognition. Maybe you wanted someone to put your school report on the fridge, even if you got a C, and say, I'm proud of you because you've worked at it. Worked hard. Maybe you wanted someone to love you irrespective of whether you looked a certain way, whether you performed for them, whether you went to church, the temple, the mosque, whether you did or didn't, whatever you chose. Maybe you wanted someone to just recognize you and love you for who you are. Maybe you wanted someone to really show up for you. And when you really got hurt, physically or emotionally, and you were lying there hurt, maybe you wanted someone to really go down on their knees and hold you and hug you. And so you need to visualize yourself being that person, being that parent who couldn't show up for you. You need to visualize being them and actually showing up for yourself. That's what's really important. Because by doing that, what happens is you now make that child feel a little more soothed, a little more comforted, a little more healed. And as that child starts to feel those things, you in the present moment truly start to feel those things. You start to feel so much more secure, like you can show up in a place where you're not needing someone to validate you because you're validating more of yourself. You start showing up more in a place where you're not afraid of someone leaving you because you're truly there to give yourself company, especially in those moments which are hard. These are 3 easy ways you can do it. And if you focus on doing these every time you actually feel the pain, every time you're feeling the lack, every time you're really needing the voice, if you provide the voice, you provide the love, you provide the validation, in the present moment, you will show up so much more secure. And the choices you make will be so much more supportive of who you are. They will validate so much more of who you are. You'll feel so much more complete. You'll choose better partners, better situations. You'll perform better at work. You'll show up so much differently in your friendships because you're showing up full of love. You're showing up more secure. You're showing up more grounded. Doesn't mean we don't need people, but we don't need people to complete us. We need people now to complement us. And there's a big difference. Our identity is our identity. Whether they're there or not, we don't lose it. We should not lose it. When we lose it, it means that someone else is completing our identity. But when we don't lose it, we may be hurt this way, that way, but we don't lose it. It means that we're now just needing to be complemented to take it to the next level. So that's what I wanted to offer you in this video. If you like this stuff, like I said, subscribe. If you love our videos, subscribe to our channel. There's so many more videos that are going to keep coming up. But one more thing is I've launched a new membership, which is for inner work, for people to be able to access live calls with me twice a month, to be able to have this amazing journal that takes them through prompts every single day and things they need to work on, that allows people to do so much inner work and reflection and deal with the problems and challenges in their present moment, including asking me questions on a group Q&A called You Ask Yats. And all of that is just for $1 to start. So if you are really interested in joining that community called the Emotional Freedom Collective, click on the link in this video to go to the website and sign up for the Emotional Freedom Collective, and I'll see you on one of our live sessions soon.